Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Canadian Baseball Network podcast. We're excited to be talking about the next wave of talent potentially making its way to the big leagues in the 2025 Major League Baseball draft.
It's always an exciting time, and they've of course moved the draft back in recent years to be right around the All-Star break. So you kind of have this big sort of week or 2 weeks of big events, right? A couple weeks go by, and then you get the trade deadline as well. So it's an exciting time in baseball, an exciting time for us here. There's some good Canadians in the mix here, as well as the Jays having the 8th pick. So lots of good Canadian draft coverage, to say the least.
Yeah, the Jays in the top 10. That hasn't happened in a while, so it's going to be interesting. We're going to get into that a little bit later with Avery Chenier of the Gate 14 podcast, but we want to start here with, obviously, being the Canadian Baseball Network podcast. Let's start with some Canadians that we could see in this draft.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So you have, it's actually a really interesting year because you have a guy at the top of our Canadian Baseball Network draft board here, whose last name is a street in Toronto. Very interesting, Tyler Bremner, and a guy who has been mocked kind of to a variety of different spots. Maybe mid first round, maybe a little later first round. Matt, kind of your perspective on this righty.
Yeah, so Tyler Bremner, parents are from Mississauga and Queensville, Ontario, so very much Canadian. I've seen him and Slater DeBrun, who we have number 2, who also holds a Canadian passport, somewhere in the 20s, the 20 picks. Bremner, good fastball out of UC Santa Barbara in California. Got off to a bit of a slow start, I believe, so kind of it was a little bit questionable on him. But yeah, it could be a late first round selection. You've seen a lot of those in the past. Dante Nori and Bo Naylor, and so it's definitely worth paying attention on day one for him and Slater DeBrun. For DeBrun, I've seen some comps. I believe it was Jim Callis, who we've had on this show before, made a Corbin Carroll comp. He's a little bit undersized, but hey, Corbin Carroll playing for Canada, the World Baseball Classic, why not?
You know what? Yeah, and I saw that comp too, and I think that's an interesting one. And I mean, anytime you get anytime you get a lefty who you think may be able to have some power from the left side, like that's super projectable. You want that all day long. So again, another guy who you could see maybe being picked even a little earlier, depending on if a team might want to invest in that a little bit more.
Yeah, and a high school kid too. A lot of these guys that we're going to talk about are college guys. Bremner, obviously, UC Santa Barbara. The next guy we're going to talk about made to the College World Series, and Charles Davalon at Arkansas. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Having 2 Canadians in the first round would be something. And it's going to be worth tuning in to the MLB Network on draft night day 1.
Yeah, and whether or not Charles Davalon actually joins them, I mean he's had a great career as well in college, and another lefty there. Like there's Matt, I feel like it's been we've done a few draft episodes where there was some depth, but this time we have a lot of kind of high end talent sort of at the top end, and that hasn't always been the case.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Bremner and DeBrun potentially round 1, day 1. I've done some poking around, kind of talking to some people, not as much as Bob does putting his list together, so I'm not gonna pretend to know that much. But I heard Davalon potentially round 2. Maybe he falls into those comp picks, so maybe he's also a day 1 selection. That would be exciting. 3 Canadians on day 1 would be a heck of a start.
Yeah, no kidding. He's got his ranking is interesting. There's the Athletics top 100 has him 28th, and he all the way down to Baseball America's top 500. He's 62nd. It'll be interesting to see kind of where he ends up. Tons of different big swing there. And so it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Left-handed hitting outfielder, excelled at Arkansas. He drove their offense all season long, hit leadoff. You're going to hear a little bit about the big home run he hit off Liam Doyle, who's going to go in the top 10 picks a little later on when we talk to Avery. I'm pretty big on this guy. Watched him play, spoken to him, really composed, really down-to-earth young man. So it's going to be interesting to see where he falls.
Yeah, and a guy who, like you mentioned, the power, but also hit 346. So, kind of did it all this year, and another left-handed swing, projectable, like we said with Slater as well. 2 guys who you could see a team really kind of dreaming on a little bit, right? I'm not going to go and say Owen Casey, but there's an opportunity there where maybe it is, like you mentioned, day 1, and there's a bunch of guys that are taken off the board for Canadians.
There's absolute tools there, and I didn't necessarily think round 2. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on all things draft, but when someone brought to my attention that he could go, second round, maybe third round, yeah, obviously he's very highly sought of. The next guy on the list is also very highly sought of. We have Antoine Jean, left-hander out of the University of Houston. This is an interesting one because as a senior, Not a lot of leverage. I see him late second day, 8 to 10 rounds maybe. And could be a slot saver for some people with not a lot of leverage. The signing bonus could be, maybe not as high as it maybe should be for a guy of his skill level, but somebody getting a really good arm for a discount potentially.
Yeah, 4 pitches, fastball, 2 breaking balls, and a change, up to 96. Usually sits 92, 94. You mentioned slot saver, and yeah, same thing. A lot of the rankings have him, back there, like MLB Pipeline's top 200. He was on that, but down to closer to 500 on Baseball America's top 500. So a big swing there. But yeah, like you mentioned, and to a guy who from Montreal, pretty big lefty, like you have an opportunity there coming out of college to maybe get a guy who can, you can project on a little bit, but also a guy who, like Tariq Skubal was a 9th round pick. I'm not trying to compare the two, but I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of opportunity on that second day to find some gems, right?
Jean had a really interesting year too on route to winning that conference pitcher of the year. He threw out of the bullpen, but he was very much a bulk guy. There's a lot of 4 or 5 inning outings that he was used in that Cougars bullpen. So kind of an interesting to see how people see him at the next level. I would think probably a reliever, but he is also shown an ability to be stretched out. He started at the University of Alabama as well before going to Houston. So there's a lot of versatility there where you could use him. Could he be a long guy in professional baseball? I mean, that's not necessarily a position that you strive to be, but a guy that can be potentially be in a professional rotation or be very effective out of the bullpen as left-handed.
Yeah, and a 4-pitch mix, right? So maybe he can start, but yeah, maybe you get to a team and they say, you know what, you're going to be 2 pitches, maybe 3 pitches max. You got to drop this one. We'll see. Again, I think maybe in his case, it might be a little bit of a team saying, yeah, we can change up that arsenal a little bit, and he can be, a long relief guy that you dream on a long relief guy, a guy you can put on your slot in your pen one day. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And I let's jump to 5 and 6 on our list is infielder Tim Piacenton and right-handed pitcher Will Hines. Will Hines of the Ontario Blue Jays. Piacenton of the Okotoks Dogs, who we just spoke to not too long ago on a podcast. Piacenton, big left-handed bat, committed to the University of Miami. Will Hines committed to Wake Forest. I feel like he committed like years ago as like a grade 6 student, but I think it was like grade 9. But 2 high-end high schoolers on this list. Hines is committed to Wake Forest. As I mentioned, Piacenton to Miami. I've heard rumblings middle rounds of second day, so anywhere between about 4 and 7. What's it going to take to sign them away from those commitments? Because the University of Miami, there's worse places to play college baseball in Miami and Wake Forest, so that's going to be an interesting one. If they go, will teams go over slot to sign them away from those commitments? I guess we'll see. I guess it kind of depends where they fall and what exactly slot is at those points.
Yeah, and I mean, 6'2" righty, that's kind of like a guy you could see really going to college, having a good college career, and really vaulting himself into a day 1 pick as well, right? In the form of Hines. So, you almost, from a Canadian perspective, of course, you want to see guys get drafted, but also the opportunity to go to Wake Forest and be a stud in their road. I mean, that's also super enticing.
But both committed to 4-year schools, not going to junior college route. So they're going to be there for 3 years. How much do you bank on yourself? If you're a 4th round, 5th round pick now, do you bank on yourself to move up into those top 5 rounds? It's an interesting game to play. I wish I had the opportunity to play it, but I was never.
Do you think that changes if you're a pitcher versus a hitter? In this case, like Hines, like, you know what I mean? Like, do you think that changes things? I guess it's really situational.
Yeah, I would say it's situational. I don't know. You really got to understand your ability, where you're at, where your ceiling can be, and where you project yourself. And the thing about college baseball is it's getting increasingly better. I mean, when you're going to Wake Forest and Miami, those types of schools, you're going to face top end competition. I mean, look at some of these guys that are going to go in the top 10 picks. Look at where they go: Florida State, Tennessee, Oklahoma. Ethan Holloway's committed to Oklahoma State. Kate Anderson might go first overall at LSU. So college baseball prepares you so well nowadays, especially with the advancements in technology and development and coaching, and so it really prepares you well for the draft. So it kind of depends on how confident you are in yourself, and obviously personal situations and money, because it does come down to what you're going to get in that signing bonus.
A couple other righties here round out our 7 and 8, Micah Bucknam and Blake Gillespie. And again, like we talk about it, like whether you're a pitcher, you believe in yourself, that kind of thing. I think in the case of each of these guys, Matt, you have an opportunity. Like, first of all, Micah Bucknam, born in New Zealand. That's pretty cool. And that would be, I don't know if it'd be like a first, but it would probably be one of the firsts for a guy born in New Zealand to get drafted.
For sure. Obviously, we have him listed from Abbotsford, but yeah, pretty cool story. Also, another side note on Micah Bucknam, if you don't know, he's a College World Series champion. He won it in 2023 alongside Paul Skeens at LSU.
He
had a couple seasons at LSU out of high school, transferred to Dallas Baptist. I spoke with him for a story this season. He really spoke highly about his connection with the pitching coach at Dallas Baptist and how important that was for him. And it paid off. I mean, he had a good year. He was their number one starter for most of the year. So we'll see where he goes this year. He has been drafted before.
By the Jays.
By the Jays, yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see him. Is he a day 2 guy? I don't know. We'll see. Top 10 rounds. But I'm looking forward to following his career. He's going to get picked somewhere more than likely. So it's going to be interesting to follow.
And then Blake Gillespie, shout out to Arva, Ontario. Dual citizen and, a guy who, much like we just talked about, a guy college and he actually had himself a no-hitter, didn't he?
Yeah, he did earlier in the year. He's a Canadian Baseball Network College Player of the Week for that no-hitter. Another guy pitched in the SEC. He was at Georgia before going to the University of Charlotte. And again, looks like a great decision. Went in, was their number one starter, excelled all year. All-American nods. I can't even list them. I think he had 3 or 4 from different outlets. So another guy that, where does he slot in? I think he kind of strikes me as a well-rounded pitcher. I don't know if he's going to be, a top of the rotation guy, but definitely someone that could, develop into, a mid-rotation option for somebody.
And Baseball America has him in the 200s, various different areas, but right around anywhere from 200 to, in this case, I've got 328 on Perfect Games Top 500. So, again, a guy we'll see, but I think, Matt, you mentioned it, like maybe not a top of the line guy, but a guy whose makeup I think you might really like, and an opportunity there, hopefully, for another Canadian. And shout out again to Arva. Hopefully an opportunity for him to get drafted as well.
Yeah, for sure. Those are kind of the top guys that I wanted to talk about today, and some of the ones that we might see on the first 2 days. Anyone that really stands out to you, Jackson?
I like this Bremner. I like a lot of these guys. I like the Bremner, really. I think he has a chance to go in the first round. Again, I've seen some people put him as high as 16th in a mock draft. So we'll see there. Obviously, you just never, in baseball, the draft is just so based on slot value and things like that, and based on kind of philosophy of a prep hitters, all that. So I'm excited by him the most to see kind of like where he ends up. But the other guy too is Slater. Like, to me, the potential is there. And I think I want to see, like, if a team kind of buys that potential in him and is willing to kind of, invest in that, maybe take him a little higher than even some of the rankings have him.
I think for me, Antoine John's an interesting one. I know he's not necessarily going to be a top pick, just be, and where he falls, and not even worried about what he signs for, but just, a guy that had a heck of a year, just his whole season, being a senior, pitching in the bullpen, but pitching long relief, then winning Big 12 Pitcher of the Year. It's just a great story, and I'm curious to see not only who takes him, but how they use him in professional baseball.
Honorable mention too for Piacentine, because if someone can pull him off that commitment, I think that could be interesting to see how that shakes out potentially.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely an interesting draft for Canadians. We'll have it covered for you on the Canadian Baseball Network. Next up, we're going to be speaking with Avery Chenier of the Gate Tip 14 podcast about who the Jays may select at number 8. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Canadian Baseball Network podcast. We're excited today to be joined by Avery Chenier of the Gate 14 podcast to talk a little bit about the draft. Avery, how's it going, man?
Good. Thank you for having me. Love draft time. It's nice. Was bad because last year they stunk out loud, but it is nice to be picking in the top 10 picks. So I'm really excited for the draft.
Yeah, it's a small benefit, I guess, almost a year later from a terrible season. But before we get to that, I said we were going to start a little bit with the minor league system. I have to first thank you as a former college pitcher for that first pitch you had at Rogers Center and not airmailing it to the backstop. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you for saying thank you. My labrum is just, I can't throw a baseball anymore. I can't do it. I got no feeling in my fingers. So it was when they said you can't go on the mound, I said, thank goodness I can't go on the mound, because I wasn't making it there. It was going to be a lob, and I thought I was going to be short the whole time. So we cut the distance and I mean, you can't miss from 40 feet. That's for 10-year-olds to be doing that. But look, I made it. Johnny did not make
Yeah, I
it.
mean, you're throwing a flat ground at that point, so I guess
We could have underhand tossed that in there and made it. That's how close we were at that. We could have walked it. It could have been.
For sure. So let's talk a little bit about baseball players that are better than you and I. Before we get to the draft for this year, a little bit about the Jays minor league system as is. Where do you kind of see this system? It's obviously taken a lot of steps forward in a lot of people's eyes over the last year or so, but what kind of stands out to you?
Oh, man. I mean, just total shot in the arm for pitching in the system last year. They drafted, 11 pitchers. I think they signed pretty much all of them. I mean, they traded Colby Martin here, so he's one of them's gone. But it was just a system everyone was down on, and I think people hadn't been paying attention to it much because everyone else is saying, hey, the J system stinks out loud. Why would I go look at any of these guys, right? And who's the one Baseball America guy who was always fighting for the J system? Maybe I forget his name. But there was one Baseball America guy who was always in on the J system, and he just keeps saying it's not as bad as people are saying it is. And then you get this influx of talent where it legitimately was a huge influx of talent from their most recent draft. They changed things up. Shane Farrell's gone too, and it kind of is just a whole change, maybe even philosophy as to how they went. It's not as bad as people think. The high end talent, you're not going to get the 17-year-olds in high A. Like Jesus Mate, they don't have that type of player right now, but I think there is a lot of talent and there's some like good outlooks for major league guys that can help contribute. Maybe not high end starters, not high end guys. Arjun's the guy we're hoping that's going to end up that way, but I just honestly don't think the system's that bad. And they've shown with the contributions of Barger types that they like the guy that's not is like kind of put together. He's the only one that's not that way, right? Just super toolsy. He hadn't put everything together, and they like the other types. So maybe we get to that thing where it's like we're going to bet on some tools and not so much the type of player we like. But we'll see if it's a big pitcher heavy draft again. We're going to know what they like and what direction they are going.
For sure. I think you segued that perfectly because when I was looking at their system, obviously following it very closely and looking at this draft, their system is very pitcher heavy, it seems. And not a lot of that kind of top end talent that you mentioned. Very more of a deep system than maybe the high end skill. So no one really drafts for need, especially in the first round, especially in baseball, given how long it can take some of these guys to develop. But we're going to let's just talk about that anyways. Is there something that this system really needs that you think they could maybe address in this draft?
No, man, like positionally, maybe it's catching, but you're not going to do that in the top 8 picks, right? That's just maybe if it's Ike Irish, the one who all the scouts are going to say, yeah, we pretty much don't want him to catch at the next level, right? You have no second round pick. I think it's just you're drafting prep shortstops and you're drafting college arms, and that's forever the way it's going to be. Maybe like if you do re-sign Bo, there's a chance that Arjun moves to third, and that's not as much of a need positionally. Yeah, I think just honestly, talent wise is what most teams go into the draft searching for. And in the top 8 picks, you're picking from a great group of 10 players pretty much. And it's your favorite player that's going to fall to you at 8. It's not like the 20th overall where maybe you have a guy who should be 25th, 30th pick going to you. You take him under slot. I think you're just picking from who kind of falls at this point, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of a situation where you almost wish they had a comp pick because Caden Bodine's down there, catcher from Coastal Carolina. That'd be a nice fit and nice shot in the arm to be catching.
Yeah,
in the
Bodine can catch so well too. Like the Jays love that catcher who's going to steal strikes the whole time, and Bodine can hit. Like that's kind of that would be perfect for the comp. Even like a second round pick, that would be nice to have if they want a shot in the arm for catcher.
For sure. And you did a video for Gate 14. Was it yesterday on some of these guys that are going to be potentially there for the Jays? I know you said Ethan Holiday and Cade Anderson. Cade Anderson looks like he's ready to step into a rotation right now, a big league rotation. Those guys won't be there for the Blue Jays. But let's go over a few of the guys that you kind of mentioned. Was there one in that group that you talked about that really stuck out? You kind of hope slides to number 8.
I'm a Jamie Arnold fan. It's the kind of more pitchability than Liam Doyle. I was a left-handed pitcher, obviously, anyone who throws left-handed, I'm all in on. I think they'll be the next best thing. But I really want Jamie Arnold. It's what, 95. He could sit most of the time, and then just a wipeout slider and a changeup that he can throw. But you're that good in college compared to some of the other guys, even in the ACC at Florida State. There's a chance you don't even need to use one of your pitches, pretty much. And Jamie Arnold didn't have to. I think there's not even fatigue on Jamie Arnold. His big year was last year, and like if he would have gone in the draft last year, he might even go higher than this season. That's how good his 2024 was. I'm hoping Jamie Arnold makes the fall. Do you have a favorite of the prep shortstops at all? Because I'm kind of in between on all of those guys.
I mean, I saw the Reggie Willits, Reggie Willits on Eli. Who's now I'm drawing a blank on the name. Carlson. Is that guy smooth or what?
Like they think he could defend in the big leagues now. That's how good he is defensively. And I was a pitcher, like I said, but I like just full on offensive guys. I like seeing someone who, you know what, who cares how they can defend? I want to see someone hit. But honestly, with Billy Carlson, if you playing a premium position at shortstop, if you are guaranteed to be able to field in the big leagues and they give you the chance up there, like your ceiling's through the roof, your floor is really high, and the ceiling, if you could ever hit, this is a fantastic like prospect.
Yeah, and again, that you showed a little bit of video in your podcast of Billy Carlson, just how quick and how smooth his motions are. He looks like a big league infielder already.
Yeah, just imagine he grows too. He was 97 off the mound. Just like he might be a two-way guy. That's how good. What is it? 70 grade arm and glove already. You don't see that. Just far and away the best defender in this draft class. I don't know how Blue Jays fans would feel if it's like, hey, we got this glove first shortstop again. We're going to be the best defensive team ever. But you're playing in that California, that public school ranks, right? And that's, I don't know if it's public school, but the California high schools is just some of the best high school baseball you're going to get. He runs through the summer circuit. He's been really good. He's facing the best of the best at his, and he's been able to pull it together with the bat too. I truly don't think the bat's too far behind. There's not going to be a ton of power there, but there's such good bat to ball. He can handle the velocity at this point.
Not much power in a defense first guy. That sounds like that's Blue Jays written all over.
Yeah, people are going to be so mad when that happens, and then I think they'll realize that the defense is just that good.
Speaking of Blue Jays written all over it, Eli Willits does, you mentioned they kind of changed their draft philosophy a little bit, but he does scream a guy who would be a Jays pick, right? Like the big league pedigree, the 60 hit tool, still just 17. Like, where do you kind of rank him amongst, let's say, a Billy Carlson, amongst some of the other infielders around?
Yeah, so you look at Willits and everyone's saying it's the classic. His dad played in the big leagues. He's been around the clubhouse. He's got it all. The good motor too, and he's 17. He's not going to be 18 until December. Arjun was kind of the same thing on his draft day too. A good comp, I think, looking at him is what Brooks Lee kind of did. Obviously, Brooks Lee was a college shortstop, the Cal Poly, but like a pretty polished player for being in high school and being as young as he is. I don't know where I'm able to take his ceiling with Willits, but that is like a good player that you can take. And that's an influx of talent into the system as well. The JoJo Parker is the interesting one because I think he's the third of the group of three that I think will be around the 8th pick. JoJo, they've talked about loving his bat, and he's bat first compared to all the other guys. Say Willits is the best all around, Carlson best defender, and then JoJo Parker's probably the best bat. So it'll be interesting to see where they go.
Yeah, for sure. I said to Jackson before he hopped on, I really wish there was a bat that was a little bit more advanced and ready to step into maybe the higher levels of the minor, maybe in AA a year from now. But there doesn't really seem to be that guy. The prep high schoolers are young, and there's not really a lot of college. There's Ava Arquette was one at Oregon State. But do you think there's any others that are kind of like that might be able to make more of an impact in the minor leagues rather quickly?
Okay, so the Brendan Summerhill and Jace Laviolette. Laviolette's going to be the most interesting prospect, I think, because you see what Caglione has done already in the big leagues. Laviolette swung and missed so much at the college level, and buddy BK said, there's not many college hitters that do well when you're swinging and missing at that level, but the power is there. Caglione had maybe some concerns, you'd think, with swing and miss at some point, but Laviolette's a year off of hitting 1,000,000 homers in college. That's the one where if you truly believe you can fix some of the swing and miss, the raw power that he has is incredible. And that's Summerhill's pretty polished as well. I think those are the two that are kind of on the outside. And then the one who I put in the video, Ike Irish being the catcher outfielder, is another one where pretty interesting to see what they think of these players, because I don't know really what to think. Ike Irish hit 50% ground balls and he hit 19 home runs. Like, how is that? Surely that'll continue into pro ball. He hit 2 homers in 60 games in the Cape Cod League. People worry about
that was concerning to me, because when you get the wood bat in your hands, and I don't know about you, but I played in a college summer league with wood bats. In the first year, it was like the games were over in like 2 hours and 15 minutes, and there was 3 runs scored. Obviously, these guys are a little bit better than the guys I was playing against, but 2 home runs in 60 games with the wood bat do you think that is concerning?
It's not a positive for him at some point. Like some scout in some room will hold that against him. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the baseballs they were using and the bats they use now are just trampolines at this point. So I think it should be concerning.
Laviolette, again, is an interesting one, just to get back to him, because Texas A&M didn't have a great year. How much of that plays in? Like, you know what I mean? They were really good the year before, obviously. And then this year, they just kind of fell off the map. And, you know, how much was it the help that he had around him? How much was it that he just had a down year? So, yeah, I think that's going to be definitely an interesting pick to see where he goes. I think he still goes in the first round, but I'm curious to see where he falls.
I think he ends up Spencer Jones prospect level, where Spencer Jones was another college bat, right? He was Vandy, and he gets old for Double-A. Been there for long enough, maybe not old for the actual league he was in. It's like, this guy is hitting the most home runs in the league and swinging and missing on the most stuff ever. Like, what do you do with him? I think if Laviolette gets to that point 2 years into his pro career, no one's that shocked.
Yeah. And Spencer, that's a good comparison, because Spencer Jones is the prospect you always hear about, but it seems like he's never coming. I don't know.
Exactly. It's like he's doing it big right now, but no one really wants to talk about that swing and miss being in the lineup every day. And
anytime you talk about trading him, everyone's like, no, he's got too much, his ceiling's too high. But it's like, okay, well, why don't you call him up? It's like, oh, well, he's not ready yet. I don't know. Yeah,
so Laviolette being in between a Caglione and a Spencer Jones is not a good spot to be in, I don't think. Yeah, and no one's gonna want to do top 10 on that, maybe not even top 20. So
yeah, because after 2024, he was like, I thought he was gonna be a top 10 pick.
He could have been a first overall pick at the home runs he was hitting at that rate.
Yeah, and it's always interesting too. I mean, you look at the Jays last year with Trey Savage, and he fell. I mean, no one expected him to be there at 20 for the Jays. People were talking about him being a first-round pick. So that's what makes this draft interesting. We'll sit here and talk about it all day, and it'll go nothing like we talk about. So,
no.
I guess my last thing is, we didn't talk about Kyson Witherspoon either.
No, he's so interesting to me because he's a very good pitcher and he's got good stuff. And the strikeouts he had, none of the scouting reports I really read were that much jumps off the table. Like, you see the fastball that can be up to 99, but they think it's more power pitch than good metrics on his fastball. The good shapes, the cutter works well. Like, I think he's a good pitcher that's obviously super athletic. Like, you're not too worried about him at the next level. And what I said in my video was, maybe the pitching lab is so good with Dunedin right now. They put all those pitchers there and pretty much success right away with the college guys, where they think they get Kyson, who's obviously a good, talented arm. Like, you're able to throw 99 from the right side, 2 distinct good breaking ball shapes that end up with the Blue Jays. And I think they can work with him too. He hasn't really done much with his changeup. Maybe it turns into a splitter like they do with every guy in the system, but that's like, I don't know what his ceiling is either. That's where I kind of worry with him. Like, if he's, you want to take mid-level rotation guys, you'll take them for your baseball team to be able to throw a bunch of innings.
That was the 8th overall pick.
that's where it's like, okay, I don't know where it's at. It's so I'm the three lefties, and then he's right after where I'd go the three lefties, shortstops, Kyson right after, and then well, maybe Arquette before Kyson, but he's up there. If he goes 13th, 14th pick, I'm not crazy shocked, right? Are you guys?
No, I think that's probably I don't know. Maybe I could see the Jays taking him. I mean, just like kind of a like you said, a mid rotation type guy that they can hopefully get into their pitching lab and make something more out of. But I believe you mentioned him potentially being like a slot saver type pick potentially.
Yeah.
Does this organization need to do that? I mean, I think you just take the best player you can get available, and with how they'll spend in free agency and the money that they'll throw around, do they really need to save a slot to, make it up somewhere in the second or third, fourth round?
No, I think they've been pretty good at doing that. And it would be so frustrating for someone who follows all the drafts when you pick 20th every single draft. You finally get into the top 10, and it's like, hey, we're gonna take a guy under slot here.
Yeah, you want a blue chipper in this spot, right? Like I don't want to be saving slot money for a fifth rounder out of high school. Like I don't know. It's just it doesn't.
No, but if you get the return on a like what Johnny King's doing as a third rounder right now, you can change your mind pretty quick if they find something special in the third round.
Little side story on Johnny King. I was at the spring training this year, and Pat Hankin walked into the media room. And he goes, "Have you seen Johnny King?" Not to me. He was talking to all of us. And he said, "Have you seen Johnny King?" I was like, "Oh, the left-hander." He goes, "Yeah, guy's a stud." So maybe if you can save that slot money, I guess, and get a Johnny King, then maybe you do it. But last guy I want to touch on is Liam Doyle. You said you had some concerns about him being a reliever. It is a max effort delivery. There's a lot of energy there. Tony Vitello was on the MLB Network talking about how competitive that guy is. Kind of your thoughts on him, and if the Jays were to select the lefty.
He's a crazy person, and it's fun to watch him pitch, to be honest. I'm not that worried. I was reading some things where as the season went on, holding the velocity got better and better for Doyle. I'm kind of concerned he just decided to move schools every single season. What does that say about him all the time?
Ole Miss and then Tennessee. I mean, he just bounced around the South, really, at 2 SEC schools.
Yeah, well, I mean, funny that Coastal was the one who made the College World Series this year and not the other two. Maybe he should have stayed where he's at. I'm not that concerned about the reliever thing, but it's nice to have a fallback where you can get 100 out of the pen from the left side. I think that's so underdeveloped on his secondary pitches where it even takes the Blue Jays pitching lab to take the splitters, the pitch that I like a lot. You don't see a lot of lefty splitters. You get that from what?
I know. I thought that was interesting too. I thought
you get Japanese pitchers throwing lefty splitters, and that's
I thought you threw a splitter on your ceremonial first pitch.
No, that was change out. I threw it from the roof. It was like a slow pitch one, but maybe that's a pitch you don't see a lot where you can attack with what the splitter is. And I use it as a Skubal comp. Obviously not. He's going to win Cy Youngs in the mid, but just the way he pitches and how the body looks, it's Skubal-esque. And Skubal uses his changeup as like a dominant pitch to go after guys. I think if Liam Doyle can use that with his splitter, he's in a good spot as well.
So you mentioned it briefly. Sorry, Matt, to cut you off. Like your kind of rankings where you take Doyle versus Arnold and Witherspoon. But like, let's say it's Doyle and Witherspoon. Like they're both available. Let's say, who do you pick if you're running the draft for the Jays?
I think I'm in on Doyle over Witherspoon. I think the ceiling's higher. I truly do. Witherspoon's I think is honestly a safe pick.
Yeah.
Doyle's not a safe pick. So as someone who likes a little bit of upside, I'll take it's an elite fastball already where I think I'd rather take that.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about wanting to insert, some high end blue chip talent into this system, I think you're looking at more like a guy like Doyle.
Yeah, absolutely. That's someone who maybe you don't get a ton of praise on after the draft, but you get him into pro ball, or they probably wouldn't throw him this year. Do the same thing they did with Trey, give him the year off. But okay, why is he starting in Dunedin? Oh, only because the weather's warm there before Vancouver. And then it's 4 starts in Vancouver and we're already in New Hampshire halfway through. I think it's almost the perfect way to push him through if he's part of the system that Trey Savage, the way he did it this season.
For sure. And just some more Canadian content on Liam Doyle. If you haven't seen it, Charles Davalon from Quebec hit an absolute moonshot off.
I did.
Not to downplay Liam Doyle heading into this
Yeah.
draft, but he got him pretty good on that one. But
They touched him up pretty good both times they faced him, right?
yeah, I think he didn't even get through 3. I don't think.
Yeah, tough.
The first time, game 1 was it game 1, game 1 or game 2 of the Super Regional. Do you think I guess before we kind of wrap up and I ask you who you would take, who you think realistically you would take, do you think Trey Savage makes it to the big leagues this year?
I don't think so. I'm not a part of that. It's like, let's get him ready for next year to go through it. Yeah, I was not in favor of it. I was so much different when Manoah was kind of going through it, where why are you in Buffalo doing this every single day when you desperately need the help? I don't think they desperately need the help right now. So maybe if we expand some rosters later in the year, we get one spot, but I don't think so. I don't think they need to bring him up.
Yeah, that seems to be the general consensus. So I guess to end here, let's talk about who the Jays will pick. Make your prediction. What do you think is going to happen? Who do you think is going to go first overall, first of all?
I think they get surprised when we get Cade first overall.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think that's where it ends up. And I think in the end, somehow, I think JoJo Parker is going to be the pick. I don't think the lefties are going to fall, but I think they're going to go with JoJo Parker.
We spent all this time talking about these lefties, and JoJo Parker is going to be the pick. So there you have it. I think it's going to – I want to say Liam Doyle. I mean, some people had Doyle going as high as number 2 at one point.
That's the problem for us. We can't have that happen.
Yeah. So I'll go with Liam Doyle, I think. Jackson, what do you think?
I was going to be all over Liam Doyle too. You stole my answer. I'll go with Willits just because based on what I said earlier, I know they've got a bit of a new philosophy, but I still think that they might lean on their past strategy with that one.
I don't mind that at all.
Awesome, Avery. This was a lot of fun, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us and talk a little bit about the draft.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, gentlemen.